1-1. That's how things get underway for Real Madrid in their group, a group that they share with Pachuca and Salzburg. This is how things are looking so far, just a point apiece for Real Madrid and Al Hilal. Pachuca and Salzburg playing their game tonight. Xabi Alonso just a few training sessions in with his Real Madrid side, as we do welcome back in Frank Leboeuf and also Nadim and Nua as well. But if Real Madrid...
Don't even look at me.
Okay.
I mean, right, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? What are you going to
if
say?
Real Madrid do intend to win this Club World Cup, they're going to have to give a better showing than they gave today.
You were right. Missed me out. I mean, they are. But that was kind of maybe a bit better in the second half. But that was kind of the dull, expected, accustomed to Real Madrid that we saw for the most part of last season. And if Xabi Alonso didn't already know, and I'm sure he did, because he's a smart guy, before taking that job, that there's a lot of work to be done, and that Barcelona, who are not here, are much further down the road in terms of having a team shape, then Real Madrid are going to have to go and spend money. I mean, I don't want to labour the point. I couldn't give a toss if they win this competition or not. Right, it's like winning a can of tomato soup. For them next season, it's all about, you know, winning the league, being competitive in the Champions League, and domestically getting a stronghold in Spain again. And that's going to take a lot of work. And I think we saw that today against a very experienced side from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, Stevie?
Yeah, there was... For half an hour, they looked as though they were still on the bus. You know, I guess you can give Al Hilal credit. They looked sharper, they looked quicker. But after that half hour, then Real Madrid, I think, were in charge of most things. And the problem Xavi's got is that it's going to take time. As Craig said, it was a little bit, like watching last year. And so he's going to have to change a lot of things. And as good and as smart and as good football brains as the players he have, it's going to take time. And the question is, can he get it sorted before this tournament's over and before the start of the season?
So we're getting some quotes after the game. This is Thibaut Courtois saying, after 4 years with Ancelotti, we learned some habits that are difficult to change in 4 days. Xabi wants different ways to defend and attack. We're watching videos and talking a lot. We will learn from this game. Obviously, that's part of his job, Frank, is to change it into his team right now.
Well, it's gonna take time, and Courtois is absolutely right. And when you know football, you know that nothing's gonna change. I mean, you will have to go to the process of getting into the players into another tactic, another way of working, another way of sacrificing. Sorry, for the others, and that's something some players have to learn. But you know, I don't know how the bookies decided that Real Madrid will be the favorites of that competition, knowing and seeing what we have seen for the last season. I think it's only because they wanted to get into that competition so much that maybe the bookies decided them to be the favorites. But really, we won't see during that competition. I don't believe it will be possible before the end of that competition. We won't see something new coming from Xabi Alonso. I think it's impossible. The players are tired. The players are committed to some automatism of what they have learned before with Ancelotti. It's going to take a little while to go into a new system, and it won't be, for me, for sure, during that competition.
Right now, according to the bookies, it's PSG as favourites, Manchester City after them, and then it is Real Madrid who are third favourites as it stands right now. One thing he is going to have to deal with, though, Nadim, is the defence. We got to see Trent Alexander-Arnold and Dean Huijsen today in that back four for Xabi Alonso. What did you make of their showings?
Nothing too impressive in my opinion, to be honest. But then also we're talking here about a manager who's been there 4 days, as we say, and these two players are coming into a system where those players are probably entrenched in terms of how they played previously. Adding the tough conditions, those two players wanted to make a difference, but not really knowing the overall system. Like, you've got players on the pitch who know the old system, and all the players don't really know the new system, but you've got two new players trying to figure it all out. And how good is, say, Alexander-Arnold's Spanish? You know, how can he communicate in real time? Because, you know, he's been in England, he's been in Liverpool, and he can say anything instantly. all of a sudden, when you've got to have like a real thought, what's the right thing to say? Am I in the right position? Am I supporting my team in the right way? It gets a little bit more tricky, and it's not as natural. So I think at times it maybe did look that way, but it's not to say that they had a bad debut, because in the end, they did a job for the team. But yeah, it's a tough introduction. To be playing in Miami in the middle of June is tough. And to be playing after such a long season again is tough. And with a new manager, these are all difficulties that will be in play here. But in fairness, I think overall they did a good job, and I know there's going to be more to come.
Got no sympathy for them, though, have you? Any club like this who are taking the coin as they are.
Even in this sweltering heat?
Well, they knew it. They knew it. It's not new. They didn't come in on an aeroplane blindfolded and, it was a lucky dip where they ended up. They knew where they were going to play. So that's their problem. And if they've got a bunch of injuries at the start of the season, that's their problem. And you can go and talk to Florentino Perez, and you can moan and groan if there's hamstrings and calves and thighs and muscle injuries about the lack of rest. Because who's going to have any sympathy for any of these big guns if that's the case? Because if you want to take the money and you want to play all these extra games, you don't want to give your players a rest, then you take the consequences. That being said, on a football parlance, we talked a lot with Real Madrid last year about how one of the best managers in world football, Carlo Ancelotti, had really struggled to find the balance within this team, the balance in the front line between that front three and Kylian Mbappe, and how to get the best out of him and Vinicius, and I suppose Rodrigo, the problems they had at the back, which were well documented, and all these are issues. But I don't know about you, Stevie, I honestly think the biggest issue he has is finding the right dynamic in the middle of the park, because that is really the engine room of all the teams. And if you looked at Real Madrid last year and a lot of the big games, they got an absolute tanking in the middle of the park, and that put more pressure on the back line, and it meant the supply chain to the front line diminished. Now, you might say, well, the front guys never worked hard enough and blah, blah, blah. That is true. But there is no doubt the involvement over the years of the Casemiro leaving, and then the Toni Kroos retirement, and the Luka Modric sort of ending his era, as he will at the end of this Club World Cup at Real Madrid, has had a huge effect on this Real Madrid side. Because Camavinga's physical, Tchouaméni's physical, Fede Valverde's physical, they've all got great engines, but they all kind of do the same kind of job. And we saw last year at the end of the year, Arda Güler having to come in and play in a central position because he could pass the ball. And Luka Modric can pass the ball, but he hasn't got the legs. That is going to be a big position for them.
I certainly don't. I certainly don't disagree with you in the middle of the park, but I think when you look at the best team in Europe and PSG, look at the difference when you have a front three that not only going forward are all in tune, which Real Madrid haven't had. Vinny, Mbappe and Rodrigo, all of last season, were never in tune. We never sat here thinking they're playing really well together, they're interchanging with passes, the movement between them. And then on the other side of the ball, it's the same thing. They don't do enough defensively to help the middle three. So the middle three not only are trying to figure themselves out, but they're not getting any help from the front three. And again, if you look at PSG, it's the complete and utter opposite. So from the middle and the front, never mind the back, because we know Trent struggles defensively. We saw Asensio, who played way too much last year, in my opinion, and may end up doing the same. So Xabi Alonso, it's not as if the only thing he has to do is to try and get the right shape or the right way of playing. He's got so many things to figure out, both defensively, in the middle of the park, and absolutely up front, because good luck, Xabi Alonso, trying to get those three to play together and defend and helping out the rest of the team.
And are they going to listen? He's a guy that's respected as a player and as a coach to an extent, because he's had success very early on. But are they going to listen? Are they going to, what we call in the game, rubber-ear him? Mbappe got a lot of goals last year. There's no doubt his stats were pretty good. I don't think his performances were always brilliant, but he got a lot of goals, to be fair to him. Vinicius Jr. had this great year the year before, and I think him saw these two more than Rodrigo, who's going to be more of a bit part player. Vinicius Jr. has to sort his head out. When you have a man, when you're disrespecting a man like Ancelotti, when he's basically stood on the side of a pitch 5 yards from you, telling you need to run or you're coming off, that's embarrassing. And you do feel he's got his head up his backside with this whole Ballon d'Or thing. Mm-hmm. Me. It's all about me. When it's really, it has to be about the team. Because when you look at the biggest rivals in Barcelona, and indeed, as Stevie mentioned, you could say the best team in Europe in PSG, it was all about the team last year. Luis Enrique realised that very, very early on and said to his board, listen, it's not about superstars. We need to be cohesive as a team. And they were brilliant, as were Barcelona. Real Madrid went into their shell as a bunch of individuals last year, and somehow he has to get them functioning as a unit. Otherwise, he's going to have exactly the same problems that Ancelotti had. And guess what, at Real Madrid, and you know this, it's about results or you're out. It doesn't matter who you are. And so he has to figure this out very, very quickly.
Why would Mbappe listen to Xabi Alonso when he wouldn't listen to Luis Enrique? That's what I've got in my head. Because we know he didn't. We saw the clips. Luis Enrique had him sat down one-on-one, face-to-face, not pleading, but trying to get it through his thick skull that he needs to do more. And judging by his body language, his attitude, it went straight in one ear and straight out the other. So what reason is he going to listen to Xabi Alonso when he won't listen to a guy like Luis Enrique, who's done it as a coach and who's shown without Mbappe that it is all about being a team and not an individual?
Sorry, I know we're going, just briefly. And here's the problem: if he doesn't do it, he's got two of them. Because if Mbappe doesn't do it, as you could say, the biggest superstar there. I mean, Vinicius is a superstar, probably the biggest superstar, and that's maybe part of the issue. If Mbappe doesn't show the work rate and desire from the front, from the get-go, how's the other one going to do it? Because he thinks he's his equal. So if one doesn't work, the other one's not going to do it either. And it's going to be, I think, fascinating to watch this La Liga season to see if he can turn it around. But he hasn't only got one of those issues, he's potentially got two of them.
How do you think Mbappe's going to be with Xabi Alonso, Frank?
Like he always been, like doing what he wants. Unless somebody starts saying to him, you're going to go on the bench. I want you to follow me. If you don't follow me, you're going on the bench. And that's the only way to do that is for Xabi Alonso to go to see Florentino Perez, say, give me the keys. I cannot work my system with two players not doing the job and not defending and not being committed to my system. He should have said that before signing, because now it's too late. Because if they don't want, I think the pressure is going to be huge, and he's going to be kicked out. But I would have said that I'm going to sign for Real Madrid. I want to do that. But what do we do for Vinicius Junior and Mbappe? What's going to happen if I put them on the bench because they don't follow me? Then maybe you have an open door. But right now, I don't see a bright future to Real Madrid unless those two players decide to be committed to Xabi Alonso's system, meaning working hard for the team. I don't see that coming.
As for the other team, Nadim Al Hilal, it's no secret that they've spent a lot of money, but they looked okay today. They look good.
Yeah, they did, yeah. And the funny thing about it is, for most people, this is their first sort of like chance to see a team from the Saudi Pro League. The type of league where everyone says, oh, you just go there to retire, or you just go there for the money and it's no good and this, that and the other. I think for long parts of the game, I thought they did handle themselves pretty well. Obviously, they are the underdog in this game, but you look at some of the quality players that they have, and these are very, very good players from around Europe and around the world. And I think they did hold their own. Obviously, at times, it seems like they were running out of steam as such, but when you look at Inzaghi on the bench as well, that tactically they're going to do everything they can to try and stay in the game and maybe have a moment. And yes, maybe on a different day, they maybe score some of the chances that they have. But I think, as Ruben Neves was saying after the game, you come away from the game having drawn 1-1 with Real Madrid, one of the biggest clubs in world football, a team that aspires to win this competition and win everything that they're involved in. So credit goes out to them. But these players, a lot of them on the pitch today, they played against Real Madrid before. And I think at times you could see that shining through. And although the conditions were tough, as I say, I think they held their own.
The other, I just want to say something on this because this is, I think, part of the point about going to Saudi Arabia. Is they are a very good team and they've got some really good players, and we saw that. And you saw the team sheet, but Simone Inzaghi's gone there for the money. They've all gone there for the money. That's fine. That's their choice. But nobody cares. Nobody cares. They could win the Saudi League next 5 years now. They could win it by 40 points. Nobody cares. Nobody will be talking about it. And that's the point. They've gone over there. We'll talk about Real Madrid next year till the cows come home. We'll talk about Liverpool. We'll talk about Barca. We'll talk about Inter. We'll talk about PSG. Nobody out of Saudi Arabia will be talking about this team. So they can be as good as they want. They can spend as much money as they want. Nobody cares. Right? They've put themselves in a footballing backwater. They can be as good and pick up as much dough as they could fill their coffers with. At the end of the day, outside their average attendance of 17,500, nobody gives a stuff. And that's their choice. But we won't be talking about them, and I dare say, outside of that country, nobody else will next year. And that's the sad part, because a lot of them are players that could be playing at the elite level.